Dafna, welcome to part one of our Diversity and Inclusion Q&A initiative. We are very excited to welcome you on board this episode and hear all about your story and journey within the wonderful world of tech. So welcome, Dafna.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
I would love to kick things off by finding out a little bit more about what it is that you do and also what a typical day as a tech director is like for you.
I work as tech director at Ape Group, and I think that I'm basically wearing three different hats at my job. The first one is managing people. That includes doing one-to-ones, personal development plans, mentoring. And the second hat is I'm responsible for our delivery to our clients from the technology perspective. And that includes choosing the stack to our projects and being responsible for the quality and making sure that what we build is can be maintained in a good way and scalable, doing code reviews, API discussions, and communication about the technology with other teams. Mm-hmm. And the third hat is leading some processes in our department. For example, we're doing now a big process about levels to our engineers that we didn't have before. And we hope that it will allow us to create some growth ladder in the organization.
Amazing. So you're keeping yourself very busy, all of these different hats. You can open up a hat shop, Dafna. How would like a typical day look for you? I can imagine it probably changes.
It will probably have some meetings. So it can be stand-ups. I usually work with 2 to 3 different projects. So it's going to be a stand-up per project and team that works on it. Maybe sprint planning, sprint demo, sprint retro, weekly syncs, one-to-ones, interviews. If it's not meetings, it's probably preparing to the meetings or some follow-up. It can be building a roadmap. It can be if we pitch to a new client, understanding what is the business problem and thinking about the technical solution and what would be a good architecture to solve it. We get events coming in like bugs in production that I need to prioritize, change requests from the team coming up with suggestions and ideas, or from the client that wants to change something and we need to prioritize and understand how important it is, how urgent, when we want to do it.
So there's a lot going on currently as a tech director. What do you enjoy the most?
The thing I enjoy the most is working with the team, with the developers and QA engineers that I work with, and helping them to achieve things that are not trivial, like meeting a deadline that is not flexible, or creating opportunities for growth for them and seeing them share knowledge and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Working a lot with the technology as well, how would you define your technical expertise?
I worked mainly with Python and Java and JavaScript, so both backend and frontend, and with JavaScript mostly with React.
What do you enjoy the most? Is there a particular technology that you feel is most effective?
I love the 3 languages a lot. I think that each one of them has its pros and cons, of course, but I think the 3 of them are great. And I do have a few more languages that I would like to work with in the future, specifically Kotlin and TypeScript.
Oh, okay. What is it about these languages that capture your interest?
Kotlin is a bit similar to Java, but it's more a functional language. I had an opportunity to work a little bit with functional languages during my bachelor degree, and it was very interesting, so I would love to work with it in production. TypeScript is like JavaScript, but with types, and I'm really curious to really feel for myself how it is, because I know some people love it, some people don't like it so much.
So it's an acquired taste, would you say, TypeScript, for some people?
Yes, for sure.
Cool. Well, that's really exciting. And if you look throughout your career, I know you've been able to work as CTO as well previously. How has your journey actually been to becoming a tech director?
So I started with backend, which I love. And then I was doing my bachelor degree. It was actually in the middle of my career. And in my senior year, I was taking a course together with some friends, and we needed to build an application, like full stack application, and put it in production and have users using it. I had some leadership experience before, but not with managing developers. So that for me was the first opportunity to see that I actually can do it, because I was the only person in our team that had experience.
Hmm.
So I saw that I can really give good advice, and that eventually, after a few months, we had a product in production. That was very exciting. And then I got the opportunity to take a position of a dev lead at one of the companies that I worked for, and I was responsible for creating features together with two other people and communicate with the product owner. And I liked it as well. I felt that the people working with me have a good time and know what they're supposed to do.
Hmm.
So I allowed myself to take a position of a CTO, which I liked also.
Yeah, and the rest is history, as they say, Dafna.
Yes.
How was that comparison for you, going from just hands-on with development to taking on more management and leadership?
It's a pretty hard context switch, I think, from being, very focused on something and you need to sit for a few hours and concentrate, to moving between meetings and doing more managerial work. So when I needed to do both, when I was CTO, it was pretty challenging to move from one scope to another. Like it's like another brain. Um, but in the past 2 years, I focused more on managing.
Hmm.
And then I didn't experience this context switch so much.
What would be your advice to anyone wanting to move towards leadership from being just hands-on with development?
I think that there are a lot of great books to read. In general, I love books, and I think it's so valuable to read books about different aspects of the work that we do. And specifically about management, there are so many great books. I've been reading Radical Candor recently, and The Culture Code, and Principles. And these three books were amazing in helping me understand what is my managerial style and what's important for me at an organization.
Anyone listening to this, check out those books. It will be a great way for you to adapt and come to terms with letting go of just hands-on code and moving towards management. Outside of the books that you're currently reading on leadership, what other talks or courses, books would you say have been a real game changer for your personal development, maybe from a technical, personal, and management side?
So, by far, the most valuable book that I've read was an audiobook called Secrets to Winning at Work Politics. It's a bit of a funny name, I think, but it's such an important book, because we don't learn that in school, how our organizations. So it was a really great education about the reasons why certain things happen and how to deal with them. And for me, the main takeaways from the book were, first of all, that it's my responsibility to understand what is important to my manager, and to help them achieve that. And second of all, that if something happens at the organization that makes me feel anxious, maybe like a reorg or a meeting that is not going well, I need to stop and think, what is important to me? What are my goals? And act according to this and not according to the event that just happened. And we're going to talk later about diversity. I just want to add here that from my experience working with Extend, that I'm going to tell more about, and from stories that I hear from friends, I think that many women try to work a lot on the technical aspects and getting better at hard skills. But many times, the thing that would really make them progress in organizations is actually the soft skills. So I used to think that I have really great soft skills because I was sitting in meetings and I would understand completely what people mean, and I would kind of translate people to each other, like, yeah, he meant this or she meant this, and like help solving problems. So I thought, wow, my communication is so great. But actually, I wasn't so good at talking about my work in a way that will bring me the recognition that I thought I deserve. So that is like learning how to communicate in the context of an organization. It's very important.
Thank you for sharing that. And I have to say, from a recruitment perspective, I completely agree. The soft skills are so valuable. I think as well, things like mindset, ambition, sometimes you can't teach that or train that. That has to come naturally, and you have to find that from within. Whereas technically, you can grow, you can practice, you can work on things. So a lot of companies out there do really focus on the softer skills as well. I think it's all about finding that sweet spot. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree for sure.
Reading's one thing that you're really into. How else are you further developing your career?
I love to learn new things, so I try to take at least 2 Udemy courses every year, to watch videos and subscribe to many newsletters in the different technologies that I'm familiar with. What else? I go to meetups. I try to participate in a few conferences every year. I try to join Slack accounts and Discord and LinkedIn and Facebook groups around technologies that I work with. And I have to say that it's very useful because people write so many interesting things and it's so easy to follow. On social media, I follow interesting people on Twitter that work with specific technologies and lead them. I guess these are the main things.
Yeah, I think it's all about immersing yourself in the community, right? And
Yeah,
taking advantage of that and speaking to people who are like minded and into the same things as you, or even doing things, for example, in Kotlin or TypeScript, networking with people in this area. It's about coming out of your comfort zone and just having conversations.
exactly.
It's really refreshing to see how much you value your personal development. I do feel now more than ever it is so important, especially with how the market is looking. Something that I really want to touch on today, and I've been having this conversation with quite a lot of individuals, is the topic of the imposter syndrome. Now, it's no surprise that so many of us do experience it, but actually, when you do go through these feelings of maybe being inadequate or not fitting in a team, you can almost feel alone and that you're the only one having these feelings. So I wondered if you'd ever experienced the imposter syndrome, Dafna.
Yes, for sure. I experienced it, and I have to say that it comes and goes. So I still feel it sometimes. At the beginning, it helped me a lot to just find someone who worked with me, really worked with me on a code, did code review and work on a problem together with me, that knows what I do exactly and not just from rumors or from a vague impression. And I would tell these people at some point after a few weeks or months, like, I don't feel very confident about my work. What do you think? Do you have any feedback for me? What do you think about my work? And I knew that some people that I really appreciated thought that I'm doing a good job. So that was very helpful for me.
Amazing. So that's one way you work to overcome this. And what would be your words of wisdom that you can share when it comes to overcoming imposter syndrome as well, for anyone out there listening who are experiencing these feelings?
First of all, a lot of people have it, so you shouldn't feel alone. And it's okay. People have a very meaningful careers and impactful careers, even if they experience it. And I think that it helps to really ask for feedback from people working with you closely, and just do things anyways. Like, put yourself out there, like you said before, and it's going to get better and better.
As a manager, how would you support a member of your team facing imposter syndrome?
I would encourage them to get feedback from colleagues, from people who work with them in the team, and maybe do pair programming with them. So I try to encourage the team members to have as much pair programming as possible, and as many code reviews as possible. And I try to join some of the pair programming sessions and to do code review myself. So many times I'm able to to give concrete feedback for improvement, and to also give compliments when I see good things. But also I encourage people to really get this feedback from their colleagues working with them, and not only from me. I think it's very helpful. This is the main thing.
Great. Did you know that working in technology was what you always wanted to do if you look back?
Not at all. I actually planned to study law, but I was exposed to programming at a very young age. I learned to write websites when I was 10, and I majored in computer science in high school, and I loved it. But somehow I just imagined it as such a lonely work, like sitting alone in front of your computer, very gray. This is how I imagined it. And I was privileged to have the opportunity to work in it before going to the university and really choosing what's going to be the profession that I'm going to have. And then I fell in love with it, and really saw that it's a lot about collaboration with other people, which I loved, and really enjoyed it. And I chose to really pursue a degree in computer science and continue working as a developer.
Amazing. That's so cool that you had exposure to technology and programming at such a young age. How did that come about?
It was a gifted kids school. So I was pulled from my class once a week, every week for one day, and I got to learn different things, like building drones and and pretty weird things. And one of them was to build websites.
That's incredible. And look at the positive impact it had on you and the career choice.
Yeah.
What else would you say inspired you to get involved in the technology space, or who?
So because of my work with Extend, I'm also very lucky to be surrounded by many inspiring women software engineers and data scientists and engineering managers, and some of them are also my mentors. And I learned so much from this community about technology and about career and how to manage it. Communities are very important.
Definitely. Supportive communities. What would be your advice for a woman who is seeking a mentor? Because as we mentioned, sometimes it can feel a little bit lonely if you're the only woman working in your tech team, for example.
Today, there are a lot of mentorship programs, so it's possible to just Google them and try to find them and try to register and see if you get accepted. But also be involved as much as possible with different communities, go to meetups, join the Facebook groups and the channels, and so on, and follow people that inspire you. And it's also okay to write to them and ask to meet for coffee to get an advice about something. I think that it's something that people are really happy to do, even if they don't know you and you never met and they're famous. They would still be happy to meet and help. So it's worth trying.
There's a common theme throughout all of this. Again, it's getting connected. That is a big thing. I think that sometimes people hold themselves back from doing that because they are nervous that they may not hear anything or get a response. Finding that confidence, what advice can you share here?
Many times, many things are just numbers game. Like finding a job when you're a junior is many times just, I always say that I got my first job after 40 interviews. So at some point, I was so used to the interviews. I would be like, I would get into an interview. I know exactly what the person's going to ask. I know exactly what I'm going to answer. I know when they're going to offer me water and we're going to do the kitchen tour, like everything. And it's okay. It's okay to do things several times and you get better at them. Even if the first few times you get rejections.
Don't hold back, go for it. It is a numbers game, but just be consistent and resilient with it, and you'll definitely reap the rewards.
Yeah.
On the topic of community, I know you're an experienced public speaker. You've been at the Stockholm React meetup, you've been at the Engineering Leadership Fika, and many more throughout your career. I'd love to know, what are your top tips for overcoming the nerves of public speaking?
I have to say that I still feel pretty nervous when I need to speak, even though I did it many times before. But for me, I just try to embrace the adrenaline I know I'm going to have if I have a talk at 6 p.m. It's going to be an evening full of ups and downs and crazy feeling. And I know it's going to happen. And I just respect it. Like, I know I'm going to feel all the feelings. I'm going to be super nervous and then I'm going to be super happy. And it's just part of the experience. But I would say practice a lot. I do between 10 and 20 dry runs before every talk that I give. Maybe 20 more when I need to give it in English, because that's more of a challenge for me. But also start from a small group. You don't have to start with a conference of like 200 people. You can just give the talk to 5 people and get feedback and see if it gave some value to them, and then maybe give it to 20 people and then grow from there.
I think that nerves are a very natural thing as well, because it shows that you care. And
Yeah.
a bit of nerves is always good because it does fuel you more and it creates that adrenaline, as you mentioned. So practice makes perfect. When it comes to actually preparing a presentation, what's your process here and what tips can you share? Because I think there's a lot of people out there that want to present, but they are really stuck on even where to begin when it comes to making a presentation.
Yeah, it's a challenge. And I can say that often I start with some storyline and I end up with a completely different story, because I find out that the story doesn't make sense for people. I try to describe, for example, the way that I learned something, but it's not the way that I can talk about it in a presentation, because the storyline is unclear and the storyline is very important. So with a talk, what's important to me is that people really get value out of it and leave the talk when they feel that they learned something and they manage to follow the storyline throughout the presentation. And that is a feedback that you can get when you give it to people over and over again and they ask you questions. And also, some people are really good at it. I have a friend who's really good at changing a title here and there, switching the order of 2 slides, and suddenly it makes complete sense that it didn't make before. So just finding people who are talented about it helps.
So getting second opinions, not being afraid to share your presentation beforehand with, again, friends, family.
Exactly.
Perfect. Also, I know you're actively blogging about technology on your Medium page. I love Medium, I have to say as well. There's so much great content available on there. What advice can you share for finding that confidence in hitting the publish button? Because again, I think a lot of people want to talk about things that they enjoy and they're passionate about, but they're scared about what people are going to think.
I think that blogging is so valuable. There are so many benefits to blogging. So just acknowledging the different reasons why it's good, it helps people to remember what they did. Like 3 years from now, or if you look 3 years back, technical details of something that you did, even I don't know, some process that you were part of or some project, it's really hard to remember the details. And it's so nice that you can go back and read something that you wrote about it, like a summary in your words to remind you what happened. But also, it helps learning better because you need to write down something that you did and you need to get the details right because a lot of people are going to read it.
Mm.
So a lot of times, many times you just need to reread something, which helps. Always reading again something that you read before helps, or maybe widen or deepen your knowledge about something so that you will be able to blog about it. It's also good for the personal brand of any person and also for the company that they work for. Um, and one thing that I think that people many times are worried that the content that they're about to publish was written by so many people already, and it's just not going to be anything new. But I think it doesn't matter, even if there are hundreds of blog posts on the exact topic that you're going to write about, because someone needs to read your version.
Mm.
So, yeah.
There's a different style for everyone. Even though it might be on the same topic, it's definitely going to be delivered in a different way. Right?
Yes.
When you're writing a blog, do you have a typical template or process that you follow when it comes to your content?
I don't have a template, but I try to start as soon as possible. So, for example, if I work on a project for 2 months, I don't wait for the end of the project to start writing about it because I know I'm going to forget some things and it's just going to make the process of writing longer. And I want to make it as efficient as possible. So I work with Medium, as you said, and I just start a draft and just start to write there many things that I encounter in part of my learning process and different things that I tried and links and things like that. And then by the time I'm done with the project and I'm ready to publish my blog, all I need to do is just edit and organize things. And I always let friends to go through it, also in this case, and give some feedback, and then I publish it.
It's almost like a diary entry every day when you're on the project, putting notes down. That is such an effective way to remember everything. Thank you again for sharing. Another topic that I really want to talk about, because now more than ever, I feel it's so important, what with working from home, how do you manage work-life balance?
I'll begin with what I think about work-life balance,
Yeah.
which is it's super important, and I really believe in it. And also, I have to say that I don't have kids, so I guess I'm more privileged than other people in that sense. But I try to keep my work-life balance by just pushing back on tasks that are not urgent, that come up during not work hours. And I also try to make some time for myself. This is an advice that I listened to when I was listening to Radical Candor that I mentioned. And there she said that she takes time to think about, just brainstorm with ourselves or just think about work during work. Because if I don't make time, then I will think about it during dinner, during everything that I'm going to do after work during the weekend, and it doesn't matter if I'm alone or with friends. So I just try to make time for thinking about work during the work time.
I think that's what a lot of people struggle with as well, is switching off sometimes and always thinking about work. I know personally that's something that I definitely struggle with, is switching off. So I'll take your feedback on board, Dafna, and I'll try and implement that myself. If you look at your own life as well, what kind of hobbies are you into? What do you enjoy doing outside of work?
I started 2 years ago to study Kung Fu.
No way. Wow.
Yes. So I've been pretty serious about it, I think. I practice usually twice a week. And I love it. It's great. I highly recommend it to everyone.
Cool. What was it that inspired you to get involved in Kung Fu?
It was right below my apartment. So maybe it's destiny.
It made sense. It was meant to be.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome. And also, how we like to round off part one is finding out a fun fact about yourself, Dafna. So, what can you share with us?
I'm coming from a country where we don't have rabbits in the street.
No way.
I mean, yeah, they just don't wander around. But here in Stockholm, there are many rabbits in the street. So I'm excited every time I see one because it's so exotic for me.
So, you're a rabbit lover.
Yes, for sure. And any fluffy animal.
Amazing. Amazing. Do you have any pets?
Unfortunately, not right now, but I'm really looking forward to have some pets, all the pets.
It has been an absolute pleasure speaking with you and hearing your story along with your fantastic advice. I think so many people are going to learn from your own experiences. And I look forward to catching up with you next week where we discuss all topics, diversity and inclusion.
It was great being here. And again, thank you for inviting me and giving me this opportunity.